Today, science allows us to understand the world around us like never before, but there are still a number of phenomena that hide their secrets from us. There are many mysterious and incomprehensible phenomena that arouse interest and sometimes perplexity even among the most sophisticated scientists. Despite all the advances in neuroscience and psychology, scientists still cannot pinpoint exactly what generates consciousness in the human brain. Does it arise from the complex interconnections of neurons, or is there some other factor? There are various theories, including quantum models and even hypotheses about external influences, but there is no definite answer. When we talk about the soul, everyone thinks of something sublime and a little fabulous. And what if the soul is not an abstract spiritual category, but a real biological truth? What if the source of our consciousness is not the activity of neurons in the brain, but the work of some non-protein structure that has no genetic connection with our body? Are we ready to accept a reality in which our mother and father are not related to our consciousness and our personality, but only genetically close organisms that their souls use as avatars? Atheists believe that the soul is a fiction and there is nothing after death. The body dies, the brain suffocates from hypoxia, lack of oxygen, and complete darkness ensues. A believer will describe death in a completely different way. In his view, a certain light substance comes out of the cooling body, the soul, which continues its existence moving to other worlds. At the same time, representatives of both sides agree that as long as the body lives, the main source of intelligence is the brain. And what if this is the main mistake? Could it be that the brain is only an intermediary, and the real receptacle of our consciousness and the source of thoughts is hidden from observation and is not part of our biological body? You can adhere to the official medical position and refer to the fact that the brain is a little studied organ. What if I told the inconvenient but obvious truth? From the point of view of biology, everything is very simple. If a legless person runs, then he uses something instead of legs. If in many reliably established cases the brain does not determine the work of the intellect and the preservation of consciousness, then it is not the only source of reason and decision-making. Perhaps there is a second hidden or unusual tissue or matter structure that supports our consciousness and can, under certain circumstances, partially or almost completely dispense with the brain. This means that after the death of our body, nothing flies away. But darkness does not come either. Everything is as before. The soul continues to exist and think, but without a body. In this case, after death, we will feel loss, but consciousness will not disappear, but will be in a state similar to sleep. How is it that we are all assembled as a constructor from different genetically unrelated components? You will be surprised, but in fact yes, and even more so. Sometimes this constructor has shocking and bizarre shapes. We always thought that we and our body are the same thing, but the reality may be different. We can all turn out to be chimeras at the level of consciousness and protein organism, and our soul is a symbiont and an unusual living structure that lives the life of our body by controlling the nervous system at the level of synapses of the brain. Death certainly exists not only for the physical body, but also for a part of the spiritual substance of man. What happens when a person leaves this life? At the moment of a person's death, his bioenergetic double separates from him. This is what we call a ghost in our lives. In the next instant, a kind of luminous astral body, which has an egg-shaped shape, separates from the bioenergetic double, as from a spacesuit. This body is the soul of a person. It goes into the so-called parallel world through an exit hole that is located outside the Earth's atmosphere. After the physical death of a person, his bioenergetic double, possessing residual elements of the mind, loses its functional significance, gradually exhausts its resources, and disintegrates into the smallest particles of light. But the soul, unlike him, rushes out of this world into a world unknown to us. Many stories of people who have experienced clinical death can be cited as proof. What people actually see at this moment, and why they return to their body. A person who has experienced clinical death does not really see that light. None of these people have ever been to the true other world. Figuratively speaking, a person only sees the river Styx, but does not cross it. In other words, a person can only see the entrance to another world, but not visit it in any way. We don't know what's next. We can only say that in another reality there are other patterns, the manifestation of which is beyond our competence. Each person should stay on Earth for as long as it takes to fulfill his program with which we come to this world. This is also told by some people who have experienced clinical death. From above, they are ordered to return to Earth, live for a certain time and complete their program. If a person dies an unnatural death before completing his program, his soul must reincarnate and return to Earth in the near future. In this case, the soul quickly moves into the child, who is born at a relatively close distance from the place of his last birth. since this soul is prescribed to live its life where it lived before, as well as fulfill its program to the end. To prove this hypothesis, we can cite the research of Indian scientists who over 50 years have collected several hundred reports of cases of transmigration of souls. Scientists note that in half of the recorded cases of reincarnation of souls, people left their past lives with an unnatural death. This hypothesis is also based on hypnosis sessions. As you know, a person in a hypnotic state cannot lie. Talking to people in a hypnotic state, a couple of physicists managed to find out that the human soul does not go to the next world forever. She is involved in the mysterious process of multiple reincarnations. The soul returns to Earth again and again, inhabiting human bodies at the time of their birth. And now a few facts about the soul that you will not find in the Bible and will not be told about them in the church, but everyone should know them. The soul is a part of God in man. Our souls are tiny sparks representing the supreme energy of the Lord. These tiny particles are indistinguishable in their qualities from their Creator and have a direct connection with Him. The soul has a consciousness that permeates the entire human body. She gives the body energy, she moves it, she is aware of it. She penetrates every cell of our body with her consciousness. Everything is subordinated to her consciousness. Consciousness and soul are one. The unconscious body is dead. There are no devices or medicines on earth that can return the soul to the body. The soul is invisible. Its size is so small that it cannot be seen even with the most powerful microscope. In the Mundaka Upanishad, it is said about the size of the soul that it is no larger than an atom. If the tip of a hair is divided into 100 parts, and then each of them is divided into another 100, the size of one such part will be equal to the size of the eternal soul. This is how the size of the soul is described. And this crumb is the driving force of our body. The soul is located in the area of the heart. We can say that it is right in our heart. No, the surgeon does not throw away his soul during a heart transplant. The soul has an energy structure. It cannot be taken by hand, much less thrown away. It feeds our blood bodies with its energy, which they carry throughout the body. Scientists cannot detect it, but they also cannot explain what kind of energy makes our body move. And why? After the soul leaves the body, the blood flow stops and the body dies. And neither massage, nor medications, nor a defibrillator helps here. The soul cannot be destroyed. It is immortal. There is no such weapon on earth capable of destroying a soul. Neither firearms, nor nuclear, nor electromagnetic weapons can destroy it. It cannot be dissected, dismembered, burned or drowned. Each soul experiences happiness, pain, and suffering individually. At the moment of their experience, they are not known to another body. They are not transmitted from a distance. The same applies to responsibility for one's actions. Each soul bears it individually. Parents have their sins, children have their own. No one in the next life will have to work off other people's sins. Only great souls like Jesus Christ can take on the sins of others. The soul returns to God after death, but does not connect with Him. It is separate from Him, individual, but has a close connection with Him. It communicates with Him directly. The body changes every second. Cells are born and die. The body grows, matures, ages and dies. The soul, despite all the processes, remains unchanged. Remember yourself 10 years ago. You are still young, cheerful inside. Although it seems to us that the soul is born with the birth of a child, but this is not the case. Only a physical body can be born and only physical bodies die. The soul is not born and does not die. She existed before birth and will exist after death. It is eternal. As we change clothes, so the soul changes bodies. After our body becomes old and useless, the soul throws it off and moves into a new body. First the body of a child, then the child grows into the body of a young man, then into a mature and an old man. After serving his time, the old man's body is disposed of, and the soul, after a short respite, moves into a new body, and so on in a circle, from time to time. When we remember our soul, we will put an end to our suffering in earthly life. By finding the way to our soul, we will achieve the ultimate goal of our life. Of course, most of the above will have to be taken on faith. After all, our technological progress does not yet allow us to see the soul. It is a pity that scientists are not working enough in this direction, because this will open the way to a new kind of energy. Neither the Vatican or the Orthodox Church recognizes most of the above, and on pain of death. It is easier to die than to lose their influence, but evolution does not stand still, and soon they will have to admit it or be left out.